Thank you for joining Second Acts. You know what I'm saying? This is a podcast that talks to people who are not just incarcerated, but people who are just locked in their own worlds and stuck. They're trying to move forward. So we want to not just speak to people who are behind the walls. We want to speak to people who are in prison. And we don't define prisons as 4 walls and a cell. So we're going out and we're going to reach out to everybody anywhere and let them know that transition is possible, which is why I brought you here.
Well, thank you.
And I describe you as the queen of Atlanta.
Hey!
You know what I'm saying? If there's ever a socialite circle, which I didn't know nothing about, I thought it was only white people. I didn't know black folks could be socialites. There was no TV shows of black socialites.
I know. We should have one. Well, I guess we have them now. But
What? Yeah, that's that. Reality TV is not socialites. Those is crazy people.
Okay.
So I wanted you to come because we're talking about second acts in life. You on like act 9 or something. You know
Something
what I'm
like
saying?
that.
You've been through so much stuff that you shouldn't be standing, but
That's
you're
true.
still standing. And if you can do it, and if you can come through your trauma and turmoil and be successful and stand upright, then I want you to share that message with the audience.
All right. I'm
So
here.
tell us your journey.
So entrepreneurship. So for me, it started in college. I was a freshman, and I was cheering for the Atlanta Hawks, and fell in love. So I thought with a basketball player from Philly, and I was moving up there. I was
Hold on. AI?
No.
We
No,
always
no,
gotta
no,
ask.
No.
Just gotta ask this check. There is no other basketball player from Philly, just for the record.
Okay,
There's
well-
AI, Dr. J, and Charles Barkley.
It was neither of those.
After that, it's like, I hate to say you had a whatever, but
So long story short, that was very short-lived, 2 weeks. And I came back. I had missed registration for school. And my girlfriend was a waitress at a strip club. And she's like, yeah, the owner knows you. And I was like, no, I don't know any owner of a strip club. Obviously, I did. I met him at a car wash, and he said he owned a jewelry store, which he did as well. And so anyway, I ended up parking cars there, and I started a female parking service for strip clubs. And
That's
so
wonderful.
that's how I paid for college.
now people don't understand the mathematics.
Woo.
If 300 cars come into a club in a night, minimum of $20, that's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's some serious money.
That's $6,000 a night without tips.
And I was only working on the weekends. And by the time I was 19, I had 2 houses and 3 cars as a 19-year-old.
Let me see. If we had like the applause machine, I would hit it now. There's a rule about not clapping and clapping for the mic. That just sounds crazy. So we're mythically
You put
hitting the
that in it.
applause machine. So that's what got you into real estate? Or
So that got me into parking cars, which ultimately did get me into real estate because going to school, I used to take this back road, and there was a group of guys that were from Howard University called Noontime, and they had a publishing company. And so I did an internship there as I was working as well. And I was still cheering for the Hawks, and their uncle came to town from the Bay Area, and he saw that real estate in Atlanta was very primed for flipping houses, and so he tried to get them to use some of their money to do that. Well, flipping houses back in the 90s, late 90s, was not sexy. I mean, it's crack house, trap houses, all that kind of stuff. They bought a lot of houses, but the uncle didn't have the resources here in Atlanta to really flip them.
Right.
And so then they became overextended very quickly. And so I became a straw buyer, which I didn't know what that was at the time. I completely trusted them. I was part of their company, and, it was,
you became a slumlord.
well, before you become a slumlord,
You
you
had
buy
permits.
a property. Right. So I bought the property sight unseen. He was supposed to give me some money back at the time. And, of course, he's, can't find him. I'm going to be in town, da-da-da. And I started getting these foreclosure notices on month 3. And I had never even seen the house. So finally I went to go look at it. I couldn't tell if it was a single family house or a duplex because it had like 2 doors, but the inside was all one level or, one house. I couldn't tell which rooms the bathroom was supposed to be in, which room the kitchen was. It was a complete shell. So I started buying sheetrock on credit cards and learning how to hang sheetrock, and completely redid the house, and went out of town, came back, and the neighborhood got me. They stole everything. They stole everything.
They got you.
They got me. Hot water tank down the street, tub and shower combination down
You was
the street.
like walked out. Did you take pictures?
I mean, and then the thing about it is I couldn't even get reimbursed for it because a lot of it was like not really worth anything.
Right.
So,
But, I mean, did you take pictures of the prettiness that you made the house look?
oh, I don't remember. I'm sure I did, but
You was heartbroken.
yeah. So then, the hard knock lives of property management, being a property owner with tenants and slumlords and all that kind of stuff. And so I went to real estate school to learn more about it. At the time, Donald Trump was really big with the New Deal and, how to flip real estate. And I believed in it. So that's how I got into real estate. Went to real estate school and did not want to become an agent. I thought I was going to be a radio, TV, film person. That's what I went to school for.
Marvelous.
Yes.
That's what they used to call you, marvelous.
And 23 years later, I'm still selling real estate, still slinging houses.
Slinging houses.
Slinging houses.
So for people who are looking to start over, whether they're coming out of prison, they're coming out of bad relationships, they're coming out of depression, they're coming out of whatever they're coming out of, what advice would you give them?
So as you know, I've had probably the hardest year of my life coming out of 2020. And so I'm at that, I don't know, second act, fourth act, fifth act,
So
whatever.
You want? I know you're 2020. Do you want to share your 2020?
So 2020 started off amazing. I was the president of EO Entrepreneurs Organization chapter in Atlanta. We were doing big things. It was our 20th anniversary, so we were balling out. Or 25th anniversary, I'm sorry. Went to the Super Bowl my first time. It was in Miami. I had all the plugs. Life was good. I had gone to a lot of different trips within the first couple months. On spring break with my third child, who was a senior, and it was her senior trip. 2 days in Jamaica, I get a phone call that my sister passed away. Got on a flight the next day. Prior to that, 4 days before that, my father had been diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer. And they said, hey, if he does nothing, it'll be 3 months. If he goes hard in the paint, maybe a year. So I get home my sister passes on a Tuesday. I get home on Wednesday, get the call Thursday. He's not doing well, book a flight. Sister and I are en route. 5 minutes from parking from the airport, get the call that he passed away. So in 2 days, I lost 2 people. Then I end up becoming the surrogate mother to my nieces. So she has 3 daughters, and I have 4 of my own, so that's 7 kids. We get back from the funeral in Denver, and it's shelter in place, and we're going to do homeschool. I'm not a teacher. I can't homeschool kids. So I spent all of March, April, and May homeschooling 7 kids from 3rd grade to a sophomore in college, which was extremely difficult. My third daughter, who was in high school, she turned 18 in May. My second son turned 20 in April. We did these virtual birthday parties, kind of like a drive-through. Let's see. August, we go on a trip down to Florida. September comes, and she's supposed to go off to college at Howard University. She has housing. A week before she leaves, they say, hey, we actually want you to learn in place, virtual learning. So I have a building that I own in another city, or, College Park, Atlanta. So I let her and her girlfriend stay there as a, pseudo dorm living.
Dorm life.
Yeah, dorm life. And I was at the building. My office is next door. And so I came there to check on her. And I saw her Monday. And she was excited, loving life. Her roommate was out of town. She was telling me how much she enjoyed, being on her own at the house. And so I said, oh, great. Now you know that you don't want a roommate when you go up to Howard. The next day, I was at my office for probably about 2 hours. And I was supposed to have my first in-person meeting from the pandemic. This was October 27th. And I had a little tickle in my throat. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do my virtual. I'm not going to, in case something, I have something. So I was just there, waiting for my Zoom call to start. I go into her apartment to see if she wanted something to eat. And I was going to have her pick up her younger sister while I was at my meeting. And she was face down and, on the couch, asleep. And I remember looking at her and I was like, can you even breathe like that? And I pulled the pillow up and, she was gone. She had passed away in her sleep from a seizure. Both her and my sister were epileptic, and they both passed away from seizures in the same year. So in 1 year, I go from, on top of life, and then I lose my sister, my father, and my daughter in a 5-month span. And my oldest niece, I had to relinquish back to the state because I just couldn't handle her.
She wasn't ready.
No, and she suffers from seizures as well. And I think, it was just a trigger for her that her mother passed and then, her cousin passed. And, she just became very violent and unruly and needed a lot
Traumatized.
more help than I could give her.
I look at it from where I'm sitting. Everybody looks at stuff from where they're sitting. I forget who I was talking to the other day. My mother had 6 kids. And my uncles, aunts, cousins, all of us. Since I've been born, I'm 53 and a half. I've been to 2 funerals. Everybody in our family is literally still here. I lost one aunt, one uncle, my entire life. And one cousin. He wasn't supposed to live past birth. He had something, but he made it to 23. My entire lifespan, other than elders, great-grandparents who were supposed to, my grandmother was 85, and so 3 funerals. So when I meet people who lose people along the way, like both my parents are living, all my aunts are living, all my cousins, all my brothers and sisters, all my nieces and nephews, and it's just, I don't get it. I get it, but it's like just so far removed from my story.
Yeah.
Of all the trauma we've had, we've not had that trauma.
Yeah, it's a very humbling experience, and you definitely realize, the dash between the birth and the death date matter. I just helped bury a 13-year-old the other day, and she had brain cancer, and people showed up for her. And, it's crazy how you never know the imprint that people leave on other people. Only in 13 years, a very short period of time, she was able to imprint on a lot of people.
I had the privilege of meeting your daughter.
Thank
we had
you.
just came back from South Cal, and we were having your son came to stay with me for a week. And we came back, and you took me out to dinner to say, hey, Dre. And she came by. You said, hey, come by and meet my friend. Mm-hmm. I got a chance to meet her, which was a blessing. And then I got a chance to come to her service that you held for her. And when you invited me, I was honored to be invited. I'm like, okay, I didn't know I was going to be invited, but of course I'm showing up, 100%. Drove 4 hours to be here. And when I pulled up, I thought it was a Prince concert. Valet parking, you know what I'm saying? Parking guards. They had to have it outside at a stadium, not just because of COVID, but because there was so many people.
Well, we didn't know. I didn't know how many people were going to come. My daughter was not a socialite. She was not. She either dealt with you or she didn't. You knew exactly where she stood with you, and she spent a lot of her time at home sleep because she didn't feel well a lot of times. So
she got out sometimes because that entire stadium.
No, she
was
had like
full.
700 people at her funeral, which was insane. We had 3 mayors. Yeah, it was big, and I didn't think it was going to be big.
Yeah,
I had no idea. You don't know how many people are going to come to a funeral, especially during COVID.
They came out.
They did.
They came out and they honored her, and it was a testimony of the impact that you can make in those years.
Yeah, definitely.
I know what usually we end the show with something and we'll save it. I'm saying because it's just I just think wow, she in that many years touched that many people.
Yeah.
And maybe not even tried. So
Definitely didn't try.
Now, what would have happened if people tried to be impactful?
Yeah, I think the village showed up for sure. I think for second chances and second acts and all that kind of stuff, it's really attitude. I don't know how I'm standing, but I am, and I'm still finding joy. I'm still, out getting it, wanting to do more and do bigger and better things. But it really is your attitude towards things and towards life.
I remember the first time I met you.
Yeah.
I was speaking in South Carolina, went on stage, I did my thing, and you spoke to me after. And I always say to people, hey, I run a prison program, y'all need to come up. And you said, I'll go. I'm like, this lady ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? She got a little fly outfit on. She's chilling. You know what I'm saying? She's like the head of her chapter. She's like, oh, I'm the chapter president. I'm like, yo, come on. I'm going to prison. We can go today. And you literally got in your car and you drove 3 hours to the prison. Mm-hmm. Unbeknownst to me, you don't drive.
I really hate driving. I hate driving long distance. I like to drive, but I don't like to drive out of town.
3-4 hours.
Yeah, I don't like driving.
But you came to the prison. You came inside by yourself. What are you, 5'6", 5'7"?
5'3".
I was trying. Okay, 5'6", 5'7" with heels.
I like that. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely with heels.
With the heels, you was
Yeah, for
5'6",
sure.
5'7".
For
I didn't
sure.
see you flat foot.
Yes.
And you came into a prison block of the top gang leaders and influencers in South Carolina, and you sat and you met with all of them, and you spent 2-3 hours just talking to them. What did you get from that?
So the interesting thing is that, I grew up with family members in prison. So my father spent a lot of time in prison. My brother spent 12 years in prison. So it wasn't foreign to me to go to the prison. But what I did realize as an adult going into the prison is that a lot of those kids were the same age as my son. You know what I mean? And it was very difficult seeing how young they were as adults. Like one kid had been in there for 10 years and he was only 25 or 26. I think he was 26. And he had already been in there for 10 years. And, just knowing that those decisions that you make in a quick second really can determine your whole, projection of your life is really sad. I felt like I was talking to, like my son's football team or basketball team. Like they were very polite. They were very articulate. They were very smart. It made me come back thinking and wanting to figure out a way that we could utilize them better. Like just sitting there and rotting away for something that they did. Not that to take away from what they did. Obviously, most of them
Something
had been in there. Right. But, does that really have to be the end all be all? Is it really worth the taxpayers' money to, just have them sitting there doing nothing?
Right.
I just felt like it needed to be reexamined and we need to look at it a little bit different.
What I always tell people when I speak, people hear me speak, you've heard me speak, and they clap, they cry. I mean, they're like, yo, this is the most fabulous guy ever. And I always say, I'm not the only one.
Yeah. Like I could have said a very similar story. I dated the biggest drug dealer in high school and could have easily walked that line and been in that life and knew how to,
Do stuff.
cook. Yes.
Do stuff.
Yes, I knew a couple things. But, my mother kept me very much involved in school as well. And so, somebody said something to me that changed my life. And that was when you go to college, nobody knows you. And you can be whoever you want to be. Nobody knows who your parents are, what your parents did or didn't do. They don't know your social status, your economic status, anything. You can really create the person that you want to be. And that statement to me at 18 years old was very freeing because I always felt like I didn't belong to my family. I'm from a white mother and a black father, and, you kind of live in this world where you don't fit in with the white kids, you don't fit in with the black kids, you're just kind of in this middle section. And that statement was just what I needed to become who I thought I was without having any strings attached. And I think going away to school was also a pivotal moment for me. Had I stayed in Denver, which is where I'm from, I don't know that I would have had the same ability to stretch my wings.
Right, because they wouldn't know who you were.
Right.
They wouldn't know where you were from.
They'd pull you in, yes.
You couldn't escape what people try to box, they try to put you in.
Absolutely.
So what boxes are you confined to now? What confines you now?
What confines me now?
The short answer is supposed to be nothing, but I'm just not helping.
I thought we were here for truth.
Nah. Okay. What boxes confine you now?
I think all of the boxes confine me to a certain degree. Being a wife is, a little confining or in a box. Being a mother is in a box. I still have one at home, and my two nieces are back with their father. And I said one of them, is on my way here. I was on a call with the judge, trying to figure out what we're going to do with her. So all of that is pressure, boxing, all that kind of stuff. But, you learn how to maneuver around it and get out the box when you can.
Got you. Okay, so you said people are sitting around rotting, and that's a fair assessment. It's just spoiled great produce. We're going to be produce. That's a Bill Belichick sign from football. You got to buy the groceries. You got to be a football fan. What advice would you give to people who either run corrections or just vote for people who run corrections, or advice to improve the system?
I mean, first they have to want to improve the system. I think the way the system is set up currently, it makes a lot of money for people.
$50 billion is a lot of money?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
just checking.
yeah. It's still a lot.
$50 billion is a couple dollars.
Yeah, it's a couple dollars. So I think, for one, we have to decide, A, you know, if a child is a child until they're 18 years old, then they shouldn't be charged as an adult before they're 18. Like, they can't be
Both.
a child here, and then in this setting, they're an adult. Their crime can be heinous and all that kind of stuff, but they're still a child.
Pick one.
If we're going to say they're a child until they're 18 or 21, whatever that age is, then it needs to apply across the board. And then I feel like a lot of the crimes don't fit the punishment. You know, I'm all for punishment, but I just feel like it needs to fit the crime. Like, my brother did 12 years, and I didn't feel like it fit the crime at all. But he was under, I believe, the Clinton administration, 3 strikes you're out, so he had to serve those
Out.
times.
Mandatory.
You know, each thing he did was maximum sentencing was 3 years. You know, it was like, I mean, like, when I heard what his charges actually were, like, they were so petty. I was kind of like, wow. But they gave him the maximum on each one, and then he had to serve them, you know, consecutively, which, you know, that was 12 years of his life. And I don't think it really was worth more than 3 years combined.
So what was the impact on your life, your brother being gone?
I mean, when you go to visit an inmate, you know, you're treated as an inmate. You know, they treat you really bad, even just, you know, being frisked down and going in and, you know, like, just the way in which the whole system they treat you is kind of bad. What's the impact? You know, it's just, I've never been asked that question. I've never really thought about it, but I mean, there is an impact. I mean, you lose time with your family members. You lose time. You know, I lost time with my big brother. So when he came out, you know, I'm an adult, he's an adult, but we missed all of those childhood, because he went in, again, kind of like at 18, charged as an adult. And then, you know, he's gone for 12 years.
Right. When I came home, I wasn't the uncle. Mm-hmm. I was the guy in the pictures on the refrigerator. My sisters had pictures of me on the refrigerator.
Yeah.
So that's how my nieces and nephews knew me, as a guy on the refrigerator.
And did you have your poses?
Of course I had to pose. I
poses?
had my guy my poses. You know what I'm saying? The penitentiary pose is mandatory. You know what
Exactly.
I'm saying? You got to post up. So making sure on the improvement part, juveniles should be juveniles. Adults should be adults. The treatment of people when they come to visit should be definitely considered. So now we have that in. Now what about the people who are sitting home depressed? Because I mean, I'd be hard pressed to believe you went through 2020 without hitting some depression points. I try to call you to cheer you up, just check in on you, send you little hearts and emojis and stuff on the low, just shoot stuff at you, because I'm like, yo, she got to be feeling it. As I just shoot, that's where the random texts come from, mm-hmm. for the record. So
yeah, I mean, I feel it every day. I feel it, but I just, for whatever reason, I was given the mindset of an optimistic person. You know, the glass is always half full. So even at my daughter's funeral, you heard me say it could have been worse. She could have been driving and had a seizure with her friends, and, you know, she could have killed them or somebody else, or she could have woke up from the seizure and been, you know, disfigured and not able to speak or something to that effect. That would have put her under. She would have been like, just take me. Like, she really enjoyed the way she looked, and, you know, she liked that. She loved herself.
So what do you say to people who are listening that feel alone, isolated, and depressed?
So that's what I did learn in 2020. In talking to people in EO and just talking to my friends, everybody is going through this something. It may not be death. It may not be whatever. It may be a loss of a job. It may be a loss of a child. It may be a loss of a loved one. Whatever the case may be, everyone, even the people in this room, are going through their own challenges. And so to know that you're not alone and God doesn't give you more than what you can handle, this is your path, this is your walk, and, you know, things happen to you for a reason.
Yes.
That you may call on those services and that experience later down the road.
I had a friend, Sean Stevenson, motivational speaker. He was born 2.5 feet tall, wheelchair bound his whole life. Became a doctor, became a top motivational speaker in the world, and he was just a phenomenal person. He's tons of stuff on YouTube. He actually fell out of his wheelchair, hit his head, and he was in the process of dying. And he said to one of our friends, "This is happening through me, not to me." Mm-hmm. I mean, because that was literally a philosophy he lived on. Everything happens through me. And to be literally, know that you're dying and quote that is beyond brave and real. So when you say, hey, this is the person who suffered the most should speak the most.
Yeah. I mean, they have the most experiences, right?
Right.
And they still are there, and they still make it to the next day. But I mean, it is a peaceful mind that I have. Like, some people just always look at the negativeness and, you know, they can't quite get out of their own way. And I feel bad. I really do. I really feel bad for people who, you know, can't get past it.
I think the question I asked myself, where would I be if my dad didn't leave? I wouldn't be a motivational speaker. Mm-hmm. I probably wouldn't have gone to jail. I wouldn't be changing prison systems and cultures. And so it's like, I don't wish my life on anybody. But the life that I lived created the life that I have.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is completely unfair, but it's real.
Definitely.
So it's unfair that you had to suffer 2020. But was it a suffering or was it God's will? I've always struggled with that.
We'll see. It's to be determined. It's
To
still
be-
very fresh.
Now, what do you want to say? What do you want to tell them? I tell people, like, you're the coolest person I know in Atlanta. When I came to Atlanta, you're the coolest. I like, when Michelle comes, it's like energy walks in.
Oh, thank you.
It's like, okay. I mean, I stay home by myself and work. And for the record, I got an EO because of you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I've been an entrepreneur for many years, but I never signed, know something? I never signed up until I talked to you and you told me I could. You gave me the
Yeah, and you
permission.
told me that you wanted to be in Atlanta, even though you lived in South Carolina. You wanted to be in our chapter.
Yeah, because you was in the chapter. Why were we in South Carolina chapter with a bunch of hillbillies?
Yes, we're happy to have you.
Yes,
Yay.
but I only signed up because you told me that I had permission. Dre, why aren't you signed up? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Then you brought it to my attention that you could sign up. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I do qualify. I had qualified for years and never realized it because I was so stuck in my box of I'm supposed to be in this space. I'm not supposed to be in that. I'm not supposed to be in that room.
Yeah.
That's where the entrepreneurs are, the important people, the CEOs. The entire time I was a CEO until you told me, Dre, you're a CEO too. I was like, okay. And this was not 20 years ago. This was a year and a half ago.
2019.
2019. So you helped me
I'm
break a
glad.
box.
I'm glad.
Yes. Now I'm shattering all kinds of records in EO. Whatever they are, I'll shatter them. I just do that.
You just have to be brought to the table. That's it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
Absolutely.
teach people. There's two things. There's getting in the room, then there's staying in the room.
Yeah. Very different.
Right. I know
Very
how to
different.
stay in the room.
Yeah, very different.
I definitely know how to stay in the room.
Yeah,
Some
it's easy to
rooms-
get to the room.
It's,
It's very difficult to stay in the room.
Yes, I definitely know how to stay in rooms.
Yeah.
So I'm looking. We're about to give a shout out to the world. Who you want to give a shout out to?
Definitely my village, who held me down for 2020. No doubt about it. And it's funny how people think that they're not really close to you and they're not part of your village. And, you know, I know you have a lot of other people. I heard that a lot. And I was like, you know what? Every single one of you means something to me. You know, like real life. Like, people who have been reaching out to me since my daughter died are not the closest people to me by any stretch of the imaginations, but they feel compelled for whatever reason to send me a text message or a funny meme, and we've become close about that. And I think everyone comes into your life for a time and a space or in a season.
Gotcha.
And that you should really pay attention to who God puts in front of you or, you know, beside you or with you during that season, because they're there for a reason. You can't have, one of the things I hate to hear is no new friends. I hate that saying, because if that's the case, I'd be the same person I was, 20 years ago, because how can you grow when you have the same people in your life the whole time? And if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Agreed.
You've heard that.
Yes. And you're my new friend in Atlanta. I was like, I moved back to Atlanta. I'm like, come back. Saying Michelle's going to show me the way.
Absolutely.
And people like, Dre knows everything. I'm like, no. I said, I'm going to go hang out with Michelle.
And I'm going to go hang out with them and some of them and them and make me,
You take me out. I appreciate you call me, invite me to places. I go out.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, cool. I go out, I hang out, I go back home. Like, I appreciate that.
So the funny thing is I'm really good at meeting new people. And that skill set came from
Parking cars.
No, further back. I went to a different school every year of my life until I got to high school. So by the time I had got to 9th grade, I had been to 9 schools already because my father was abusive and we were always on the run. So I always went to the school opposite of where we lived in flip-flop and all that kind of stuff. And so I was really good at meeting people because I had to.
You had to.
But then I'm not really good at remembering people because once I left,
You're gone.
I'm gone. And so that skill set serves me well now. Like those 700 people that were there, a lot of them were there because of me. A lot of them were there because of my husband. A lot of them were there because of my other children. And then some were there for my daughter. But collectively, how many people we touched and how many people showed love during COVID was very humbling, actually. It really was.
Well,
Yep.
up next thing. This is our close.
Okay.
Second acts. My grandmother, Nana Palmas, mom's mom. I get my heart from her.
Okay.
If you think Andre's aggressive, I didn't get it. I got it from my grandmother. She was like, go hard. And she got diagnosed with cancer in 85, and she refused the treatment and elected to just die. She said, my kids are good. I'm good. I'm not doing all this surgery stuff. I'm gone. And I watched her plan her own funeral. To the point where we put her in the ground. I went back. I was the last one standing, and some strange white guy comes out and says, yeah, Juanita was cool. I'm like, huh? Who are you? White guy in overalls. He said, oh, she called me every day. She talked to the dude who was going to put dirt on her grave daily. That's my grandmother.
Making sure he does it right.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at her.
She gets down like that. But I that level of intentionality has sparked me where the point now is my gravesite. I'm actively planning my gravestone. It's going to say, Andre Norman, go back to your dad. 1967 to 3050, because I'm going to be around for a while.
All right, I like it.
And it's going to be said, Harvard Fellow. It's going to say, Honorable Son. There's things that I've done for my parents that definitely qualify.
Okay.
I'm actively deciding what they're going to chisel inside of my stone. What are they going to chisel on your stone?
So I want people to say that she lived her life.
Now, how do you break that down? You know, Honorable Son, Harvard Fellow. You know,
Caring heart.
Huh?
Caring heart.
Caring heart. It's okay.
Caring heart. Loved people. She did her best.
She did her best. So now I need you for the next
to work on that.
70 years to work
Absolutely.
on that. So I believe when you understand that, it directs how you move.
I believe that too.
So I want you to move in purpose, with intent. And we want to give a shout out to everybody for listening to Second Acts and just saying, hey, Second Acts is real.
Absolutely.
Final Acts is coming, but we're living Second Acts now, right? And,
I agree.
And we just want to say, I appreciate you. You know I got number love for you. You know what I'm saying? And you know you got my number, I show up.
Likewise.
And I will show out.
Every time.
So I know you are off to greater places. You're going to
DC.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just
thought
DC.
You thought you were going someplace fun.
I am. I'm going to Cancun on Thursday. So.
You know what I'm saying? The life of an entrepreneur.
Yeah. I'm working, though. I'm working, and then I'm playing. I'm working.
From parking cars to just flying jets.
There we go.
You know what I'm saying? So with that, we want to say to all those listening, whatever type of prison you're in, possibilities exist.
Whatever prison you're in, you always have the opportunity to pivot. No matter where you are. It's never too late to pivot.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, Second Acts has come to a close, but we're not over yet. We'll be back before you know it. Peace and blessings.
Thank you for having me.